Rain was falling heavily that night as if the sky itself was crying. Arav sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the old photo frame in his hands, a smiling picture of him, his wife Mira, and their little daughter Ria. It had been 6 months since the accident, but the pain still felt as fresh as that day. The storm outside matched the one inside his heart. His home, once filled with laughter, was now silent. He hadn't painted in months, even though art had always been his passion and profession. His brushes lay dry, the canvas untouched, like a part of him had died too. Every night Arav would sit there asking the same question: why them? Why not me? One night, as thunder shook the windows, Arav walked out into the rain. He didn't care how cold it was. The streets were empty, the air thick with sorrow. He wandered aimlessly until he reached the small park near their old school, the same park where he and Mira first met. He sat on a bench, soaked to the skin, eyes closed. Memories flooded in. Mira's laughter, Ria's tiny hands, the sound of her calling him Papa. It was unbearable. A faint voice interrupted his thoughts. "Uncle, are you okay?" He opened his eyes. A young girl stood before him, maybe 10 years old, holding a broken umbrella. She looked worried but brave. Arav forced a small smile. "I'm fine, Beta. You don't look fine," she said, sitting beside him. "My mom says people who sit alone in storms are either very brave or very sad." He couldn't help but chuckle faintly. "I guess I'm the second one." The girl tilted her head. "Then you need hope." "Hope?" Arav asked, almost bitterly. "Hope doesn't bring people back." "No," she said softly, "but it helps people move forward." He looked at her. She couldn't possibly understand loss at her age, but there was something about her eyes, something wise beyond her years. The girl looked up at the sky. "My dad is in heaven. Mom says he became a star so I can still see him every night." She pointed upward. "Even when the clouds hide him, I know he's there. The clouds never stay forever." Her words hit him like lightning. The storm outside didn't stop, but something inside Arav shifted, just a little. Before he could speak, the girl's mother called her from a distance. The girl stood up quickly. "Bye, uncle. Remember, the clouds move on." And then she ran off, her broken umbrella dancing in the wind. That night, Arav couldn't sleep. The little girl's words kept echoing in his mind. The clouds move on. He walked to his art room for the first time in months. The air smelled of turpentine and dust. He picked up his brush, his hands trembling, and stared at the blank canvas. At first, he didn't know what to paint, but as he closed his eyes, he saw the park, the storm, the girl, and that broken umbrella. He began to paint, stroke after stroke, color after color. Hours passed. The rain stopped outside. Morning sunlight streamed through the window. When he finally stepped back, he saw it, a painting of a stormy night, with a single beam of light breaking through the clouds, falling upon a little girl holding an umbrella. He named it, "The Ray in the Storm." Weeks later, Arav displayed his painting in a local art gallery. People were moved by its emotion and power. Many asked what inspired it, and for the first time he found himself smiling. "It's about finding hope," he said, "even when everything feels lost." A woman approached him after the event, holding a small girl's hand, the same one from that night. "You remember us?" the mother asked. Arav's eyes widened. "Of course I do." The little girl grinned. "I told you the clouds move on." He knelt beside her. "You were right, Beta. You helped me see the light again." Her mother looked at the painting with tears in her eyes. "You have no idea how much this means. My husband, he was an artist too. Before he passed, he always said, even in the storm there's a ray of light. That's what I tell her when she misses him." Arav felt his heart tighten. The quote, the storm, the message, it all came full circle. He realized something profound that day. Hope doesn't erase pain. It doesn't fill the empty chair at the dinner table, or bring back the laughter that once echoed through the walls. But it gives you the strength to keep living, to create beauty again, to believe that the sun will rise after the darkest night. Months turned into a year. Arav opened a small art school for children, a space filled with color, laughter, and life. On the wall of the classroom hung his favorite painting, The Ray in the Storm, with the quote written beneath it. Hope is not about ignoring pain. It's about believing that better days will come. Every time he felt lost, he would look at that painting, and every time it rained, he smiled, not because the pain had vanished, but because he had learned to live with it, to grow through it, and to help others do the same. The storms of life never truly stop, but in every storm, there is always a ray, a reason to stand again, to move forward, to believe. And sometimes that ray is a stranger's kind word, a child's innocent smile, or the courage to pick up a brush again. Moral: pain is a part of life, but despair doesn't have to be. Hope doesn't deny what hurts. It whispers that healing is possible, that tomorrow still holds light. Even when everything seems broken, the storm always passes, and the sky somehow finds a way to shine again.
The storm had been raging for hours. Rain slammed against the windows like fists of anger, and the wind howled through the cracks in the old wooden house. Inside, a small lamp flickered uncertainly. throwing long, quivering shadows on the walls. Maya sat curled up in a corner, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees. The room smelled faintly of damp wood and salt from the nearby sea. She had always loved the sea, until tonight. Now, its waves crashed against the cliffs below like roaring beasts, as if mocking her for believing she could ever calm them. She had lost everything in a single day. Her job at the design firm, gone after months of being overlooked. Her engagement shattered when she discovered the betrayal she never saw coming, and her dream of moving to the city to start fresh evaporated like mist in the morning sun. Maya stared blankly at her reflection in the rain-streaked window. She could barely recognize the woman looking back at her. Tired eyes, trembling lips, and a heart that felt like a fragile glass vase, ready to break at the slightest touch. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. The power flickered, then died. Darkness filled the room. A single thought echoed in her mind: I can't do this anymore. But somewhere beneath the noise of despair, a faint memory surfaced, her grandmother's voice, calm and steady, whispering, "Even the fiercest storm bows to the dawn." Maya closed her eyes and took a shaky breath. "Dawn, it always comes," she reminded herself, though the words felt hollow. She needed to get out, to feel the air, the rain, something real. Grabbing her coat, she stepped outside. The wind nearly knocked her off her feet, and the cold rain soaked her instantly. But she didn't care. She stumbled down the narrow path leading toward the cliffs, the same path she had walked countless times as a child. The storm screamed around her, but she pressed on, drawn by something she couldn't name. When she reached the edge, she stopped. The ocean below was a wild, churning chaos, waves crashing against the rocks, white foam exploding into the night. She had always come here for peace. Now it looked like the reflection of her soul, restless, broken, fierce. She screamed. The sound was swallowed by the wind, but it didn't matter. She screamed again until her throat burned and her tears mingled with the rain. It was anger, grief, exhaustion, all the emotions she had buried for years, rising like the tide. And when there were no tears left, she sank to her knees, her heart pounding. That's when she saw it, a faint light on the horizon. It wasn't the moon or lightning. It was steady, gentle, and golden, the beam of the old lighthouse that stood miles away across the bay. She hadn't seen it in years. It had been shut down after the town built a new one. But there it was, shining through the storm. Her breath caught. She remembered her grandfather, the last keeper of that lighthouse. He used to tell her, "A storm doesn't scare the light, Maya. The light just waits for someone to see it." And now through the darkness, she saw it, a single ray cutting through the chaos. She closed her eyes, whispering, "I see it, Grandpa." Something shifted inside her, small but undeniable. The storm was still raging, but it no longer felt endless. The wind still roared, but it no longer sounded like defeat. She wasn't alone. The light was still there, and that meant she could still find her way. When she returned home, soaked and shivering, she lit a candle and set it by the window. It was tiny, fragile, almost insignificant against the vast night, but it glowed. She watched its flame dance and realized that strength didn't always roar. Sometimes it whispered, sometimes it trembled, and sometimes it was nothing more than choosing to stay when everything inside screamed to run. Over the next few days, the storm faded, the sea calmed, the sun broke through clouds that had seemed permanent. Maya went down to the shore the morning after, barefoot on the wet sand. The air was crisp, the sky a soft blue-gray, and the scent of salt filled her lungs. Each step she took left a mark in the sand, proof that she was still here, still moving. She began to rebuild, one small choice at a time. She started sketching again, not for work, but for herself. She painted the storm, the lighthouse, and the fragile ray that had guided her home. She sent one of her designs to a small art collective she'd admired from afar. To her surprise, they loved it. Within weeks, her art was featured in their online gallery, a new beginning she hadn't dared to imagine. Months passed. Life didn't magically become perfect, but it became possible. The pain didn't vanish, but it softened, and in its place grew something deeper, a quiet resilience. One evening, she returned to the cliffs. The sea stretched endlessly before her, calm now, reflecting the colors of the setting sun. In her hands, she held a lantern, small, just like the one her grandfather used to carry when tending the lighthouse. She placed it on a rock and lit it. The flame flickered, steady and warm. "This is for you," she whispered, "for every storm we survived." And as the light glowed against the darkening sky, Maya finally understood. Storms don't destroy the light, they reveal it. Because the ray that guides us through the tempest isn't always from some distant beacon. Sometimes it's the one we carry inside, waiting to be seen. Moral of the story: every storm in life tests us, breaks us, and reshapes us. But the presence of pain is not the absence of hope. Even when everything seems lost, there is always a light, a tiny stubborn flame that refuses to die. It might flicker, but it never truly goes out. Sometimes that light comes from others. Sometimes it comes from deep within. The important thing is to keep looking for it, because as long as you can still see even a faint ray in the storm, you can always find your way home.